Welcome back, everybody. So, here we are, moving along in the summer showdown. Got the second week coming up here, week number 12 overall. Um, and we got a bunch more matches to go through. So, as you can see, we already had a couple matches going on. Um, and no big surprises. We had San Francisco Shock take down the Paris Eternal 3-1, and then Atlanta Reign making pretty quick work of the Justice 3-0. Justice really kind of has been struggling after that really good start to the year. So, um, you know, got a couple of matches now in for Shock and Paris. They're going to be finishing up their matches um, this week, and they'll be done. They'll be done already for their qualifiers for the summer showdown. So, it's going to start to really take shape after this week. Most of the teams will have been in on the action, so we're going to start to see, who's got a chance, who's already going to be getting knocked out um, of the running for the summer showdown. So, San Francisco Shock, they did lose to Gladiators earlier, but now with another victory against Paris, they're getting their second one of the Summer Showdown. They're looking to be in pretty good shape. They get Houston later on, so if they take care of that, they're going to be, they're going to be looking quite good. Paris, getting that loss, they're probably gonna. They did beat the Gladiators last week, but they're probably going to need a victory against Vancouver to have a good chance of making it into the knockouts. So. Anyways, we're going to jump in, starting with tomorrow's matches that are going to be starting early, of course, as the East always does. We've got Philadelphia Fusion taking on the Charge. So, haven't seen Philly in action in quite some time. This kind of a shockingly mediocre, I guess you could say, season for the Fusion, and they did lose some of their best players, due to visa issues. They couldn't get over there, so a slightly different roster. Having Toby in there, having Hoppa in there. Um, it's been an adjustment to make for them for sure. But they've still looked pretty good. They made the knockouts for the May Melee, but then were felled by the Dragons, and then they just missed out on a tiebreaker that they had lost to the New York Excel in getting to the knockouts of the June Joust. So they're going to be looking to make their first, actual Final Four tournament of the year, taking on the Charge. Had a nice victory, but then did take a loss in their second match. So I'm going with Philly here. Obviously we haven't seen them yet in the Summer Showdown, but I do think that they're a bit better than the Charge right now. Charge are looking decent, but I think Philly is going to be quite motivated. They've looked very solid tank wise. Carpe is doing Carpe things, so Toby, I feel like has had a little bit of a adjustment period, but we know how good Alarm is. So I like Philly in this one. I think that they take it 3-1. Next, we got a nice little clash between the Seoul Dynasty and the Shanghai Dragons. So, two of the better teams in, Shanghai, best team in the East for sure. Seoul, one of the best teams in the East. I'm going with Shanghai here. Seoul they just don't have any luck against Shanghai. They go on these runs, they look really good, but then when they go up against Shanghai, they can't really ever get it going, it feels like. So, I do think that the Dragons are going to take this one. I could see it being close. Again, Seoul has the firepower to stick with them, but Shanghai's got to be feeling really good right now, coming off their June Joust victory. So I do think that they take this one in again 3-1 fashion. And we just talked about them a little bit ago, but we got Paris Eternal going up against the Titans. So Paris just had this incredible comeback last week against the Gladiators, reverse sweeping them, much to my personal chagrin and horror. But they played really well. Gotta give it to them. So they give themselves a shot. They lose that match 3-0 to Gladiators. They basically got no shot at the Summer Showdown. But now they've given themselves a chance, and they play even with the loss to the Shock, and they play a very beatable team in the Titans. So I like them. I think Paris are going to take this one. I think it's a 3-1. Vancouver they'll grab a map. But Paris, they've looked good with their adaptations. We've seen this mostly rookie, roster with a lot of new faces. A lot of guys who have been around contenders for a while, but haven't been in Overwatch League. And it feels like they've really established some familiarity with themselves. With the stage. Naga has been really good recently. Um, and Onigod as well has shown up. So I think this is a team that has a lot of ability. Like I said, they even with that loss to San Francisco, they got to be pretty confident right now in Vancouver. Winless, not going to inspire a lot of confidence. So I do think Paris win this one, give themselves a good shot at making that summer showdown, or at least a decent shot at making sneaking into them qualifiers. Then we got Dallas Fuel going up against Florida. So Florida has been on the struggle bus. They had that really good, May Melee, and then the June Joust kind of fell apart towards the end for them. And now the Summer Showdown has started off very poorly for them. Taking a couple of L's right away, and they're playing, I would say the best team in the West. So I don't think they're going to have a great time. They've inserted Checkmate as their new main tank. So OG going to the bench. It kind of hurts for me because I like OG. He's always been known as a super talented player. Super mechanically gifted on Winston. Has some great moments on Reinhardt. But is super inconsistent. Could have some maturity things the years ago. He got in trouble for doing some boosting, buying or not buying accounts, but paying to boost people up years ago, which you know he was punished for. He did his time. He was suspended for a long time when he had just gotten onto Dallas. And since then he's been completely fine. So definitely don't hold that against him. Like I said, I'm rooting for the guy, but Florida has just looked completely discombobulated, and apparently they think that a change at main tank is needed. Going with Checkmate, who's not a natural main tank player, so I don't think it's going to work out well. We've seen this story play out. Taimu on Dallas in season one, that was hard to watch. Um, we saw Hydration last year with Outlaws, which worked for a little bit, and then it really just kind of came off the rails. Um, Hydration, by the way, no longer on the Outlaws. Be interesting to see if he gets picked up by another team because the guy can play. He's got ability. If he wants to, still be here. I think a team should definitely give him a shot. Especially one of the struggling teams. Why not? If you're Vancouver, if you're London, if you're one of these teams that is winless, try to spark your team. But anyway, I like Dallas in this one. I think it's 3-0. Florida looks really bad, and throwing in a new main tank against the team with probably the best synergy in the entire league is a recipe for disaster. And the Fuel are going to take advantage, and they're just going to blow them out. And yeah, Florida was on this upward trajectory ever since season 2 to season 3. They had this big spike. Season 4 started out really good, and it looks like we're back for pain when it comes to Florida fans. So unfortunate for them, but I think Dallas takes it easily. San Fran Shock against Houston Outlaws. I think the Shock win this one. I think they're starting to get their legs under them. They're going to establish themselves as one of the better teams in the West for sure. They lost to a very good Gladiator team, and in very tight fashion. They took 2 maps. Looked like the better team for the majority of that match, but then Gladiator's just a bit better on control was the difference in the end. But yeah, I think they're playing well. Houston, they've had good qualifiers for both of the tournaments, and then just didn't do well in the knockouts. Getting smacked by Dallas both times. So I still think they're a good team. I think they make this one pretty close, but San Francisco's had a lot more time with this new meta. They have way more matches played, so I think that they're going to take it 3-1. A lot of 3-1s this week. But like I said, I think Houston's gonna have a couple of nice moments here and there, but San Francisco is really starting to lock in what they like to do and what they're good at. When it comes to this very fluid, fluctuating meta. Then next you got Seoul Dynasty taking on the Guangzhou Charge. Gonna go with Seoul here. Let's say 3-0. Seoul likes to win their matches 3-0 a lot of the time. So again, Charge, they're looking decent, but Seoul I really like. I think they're we'll see how they can do against Shanghai in their first match. But if it always feels like they're kind of nipping at the heels of Shanghai, like they're coming, they're right there. They've got they have the players obviously, um, but like I said, I think that they kind of roll this one. The Charge, it just feels like a team diff to me. This feels like a much more consistent, confident Seoul team than last year. They had a lot of bouts with inconsistency, but it feels like they've solidified that a lot this season. Then you got Philly Fusion going up against Shanghai Dragons. I think this one will be an entertaining one. I'm not going to pick against Shanghai here though. Excuse me. A lot of work over the last few days. Um, I got Shanghai 3-2. Again, I really, really think that Philadelphia is going to have a good meta here. I think that with there being no hero bans helps them out a bit. I think that Carpe is going to really, continue to pop off. And their tank line, I thought, has been really, really underrated this year. And like I said, Alarm is, I mean, I think he's the second best flex support in the league, only to Violet, personally. But I mean, the man's a nutcase, so I do think that they keep it real close. But Shanghai just a little bit better as a team right now. They've had this experience of playing in the last two tournaments. Going super far in them, and getting a win. So I do think that that's just a slight difference in the end, and they take it in a close map 5. Next, Atlanta Reign taking on Dallas Fuel. So Atlanta coming off a very nice victory against the Washington Justice. Obviously these teams matched up in the June joust with Dallas taking that one 3-1. But I mean, a lot of that match was really close. Dallas just kind of pulled away at the end. We're just a little bit better at alt execution. And we're a little bit better at steamrolling. Steamrolling momentum and really biting off time on maps. On payload maps, taking off huge chunks where they can't move the payload, etc., etc. So I think we get a really nice one. This is probably the match to watch. This one and potentially Philly, Shanghai, as well as Seoul, Shanghai. But for the West, this is definitely the matchup to watch for me. I'm going to go with Fuel here. I still just really, really like this team. They were one map away. Oh, I apologize. They were one map away from getting back-to-back tournament victories. And again, I think Atlanta's gonna, they're gonna go on some runs. They're going to make it close. They'll steal a map or maybe two, but in the end, I do like the Fuel here. They seem like they're just a lot more comfortable in close matches when they have to make adjustments. This is a team that has adapted on the fly very well. And against a team like Atlanta, I think that's important because Atlanta, they can. It feels like every week they come out with something that they're really strong with. But when it comes to on the fly adjustments, it's not quite there yet for them. So I think the Fuel will win a very entertaining, close matchup. Vancouver Titans still going to be looking for that first victory, in my opinion. Going up against Outlaws, who are either going to be coming off of a great victory or a loss. That's gonna, when you get that first loss right away in a qualifier, you really want to get it back early on. So I do think that they do so. I like Houston here. You got Linkser going up against his former team, but in the end, Houston a little bit too good. 3-1. They've, like I said, they've been one of the teams that's made both qualifiers. Which is, I consider that a considerable achievement. They got fueled both times, but there's not that much, there's not too much shame in losing to Fuel, a team that has been so good this year. So I got Houston winning this one pretty comfortably 3-1. They make some mistakes here and there. They'll probably, I see them letting a map slip by. Maybe they have a bad, defense that kind of snowballs on a 2CP map, or maybe Vancouver comes out with something interesting that they're not ready for on the control map and they lose that. But in the end, I think Houston will be able to make any adjustments that they need to and get a nice little victory 3-1. And then we have two teams who, I mean, Justice and Mayhem, they got off to such good starts. And, there were teams that Florida obviously struggled majorly in Season 1. They struggled a bunch in season 2. Washington, they struggled a lot in the early part of season 2, then kind of went on a run, but it wasn't enough. And then season 3, there it was a lot of struggles for them. While Florida had this big upturn, Justice obviously had the huge Cinderella run towards the end that almost got them into the Final Four. And Florida finished out with a really nice season. They both got off to really good starts, and now here we are. Justice were 4-0. Florida was 3-1, and Justice just got mopped up by Atlanta, and they've lost a bunch. We just talked about Florida earlier, so these are two teams that very, very sorely need a win. I'm gonna go with Justice here. I'm gonna say 3-1. I have a little bit more faith in them right now. Like I said, the main tank change it just isn't it for me. I gotta see it to believe it. I gotta see them like actually look really good and coordinated, because that's really what it feels like. It's communication. It's not the mechanical skill of these players that's the issue. It really isn't. They can't successfully and consistently coordinate their abilities, their cooldowns, their ults, to be successful on these maps. You just have to do it. You have to be able to rotate your ultimates and not use them all in a fight. You have to be able to know when to stop engaging and stop throwing ults into a fight. And it just feels like Florida isn't there, and they're making a lot of individual plays. They're not focusing on playing as a team nearly as much, and it's really hurting them lately. So I think the Justice get it done. They're, again, very, very talented team. They've struggled lately, but I think that this is the kind of match that can really get them going. Playing against a team that isn't as much of like a just a solid clicking unit. So while both these teams come in struggling, I think the Justice are the ones that win it and give themselves a chance moving forward. Maybe they can sneak into the knockouts if they have another good week afterward. So those are the predictions for week number 12. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Apologies if I am super tired. Like I said, work has been crazy and I've been working a ton. So I do apologize for that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. As always, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it very much. Hope you have yourselves a wonderful weekend. Get outside, do some fun stuff. We got a lot of things opening back up, so hope you guys are having a better summer. It's after a tough one last year. So, alrighty. Once again, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the